This is my third attempt at recording this tutorial. I'm very clearly not a YouTuber or professional content creator or whatever you want to call it, just because of this being the third attempt, and also you can probably tell by my microphone quality, so I just want to apologize up front for any of that. But yeah, today I'm going to attempt to show you how to make this real-time visualization for your music or any sort of music you want. This is quite an intense variation of it, but we can make a much more subdued one quite easily. And yeah, I'm going to make this tutorial very beginner friendly for Touchdesigner. So if you don't have much Touchdesigner experience, hopefully you'll be able to follow this all along from start to finish. And if you are experienced, then it should just be super, simple and easy. Otherwise, the project file is available for download on my Patreon. You just need to head over there, subscribe, and you can get immediate access to all of this and then play around with the parameters as you like. But yeah, I'm just going to start off by diving in and creating this entire network from scratch. So if we right click and add operator, you can also press tab and then bring in an audio device or audio file in. Audio device if you have an internally routed microphone or an external interface like coming from a mixer, or just audio file in, which is what we'll do today. You can alternatively drag and drop your MP3 and it will appear like this, or you can select it from this file system up here. So from this audio file in, we want to connect an audio device out. You can do that by just right clicking this little exit here and then going to an audio device out and then setting that to your headphones. I fucking hate the default Touchdesigner music, so I'm just going to click this little bypass here which will stop it from hearing, but we can re-enable that at any point. So then we want to connect this audio file to a null. This is completely optional. Nulls are just sort of like static operators that we can use to branch out from and are really good at, labeling things, like maybe we want to do this as audio source, any of that. We're then going to connect this audio source to the secret source of this visual, which is the audio spectrum. So this spectrum here, I'm sure you've seen a million of these before, lays out the different frequencies of the track, with the sub low range frequencies on the left growing to the higher frequencies in a logarithmic, can't pronounce that, way. And yeah, essentially that's what you were seeing in the background is a visual representation of this. And what we're going to do is we're now going to right click this audio spectrum and connect it to a top. So we've been working on these green chop nodes here, which is typically for information, maybe time and audio and math and just numbers and values, whereas tops here are typically for video and images and whatever. Obviously these different categories aren't super strict on what they are, but that's just a general rule of thumb. So this audio spectrum is converted to an audio chop, and if we click this blue icon here to display it as our background, you can see a 1 pixel high audio visualization of the spectrum in black and white values, so a mono value here. We'll come back to that later, but for now what we're going to do is connect this connect this chop to a null. I'm going to label this null as background. Again, I have a different background here, so that's why it's called background 1, and then just set this to active so we can sort of see the changes that we're making in real time being done here. Again, I just have this audio file playing at all times. If you don't have any movement going on here, you probably don't have the audio source connected. Highly recommends you do that. So in this one here, I have quite a few different visual effects, like a bloom, a feedback, a lookup even, which was disabled. But we're going to skip past all of that for now because it's completely optional and is something you can totally play around with yourself. And just go straight to converting it to this like more rectangular, presentable format. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click, add operator, and get a noise. There we go. We're going to go to the common tab of this noise and set the resolution to 1920 by 1080. The free version of Touchdesigner only allows you to use 1280 by 720, but other versions allow you to go a higher resolution. And this noise here, we sort of want to play with these parameters to make it look a bit more like TV static. So we'll drag the period down to 0, maybe make the exponent a little bit higher, also drag up the amplitude a little bit. And you can click this to see how it looks. Looking pretty alright, not bad. Optional step is to go to this transform tab, and then in this first translate option, type in ABS, capital T, and then time, .seconds. So what's that? That is basically taking the amount of seconds that have passed in this project and applying it to the X transformation, so the left and right transformation value of this noise. If I increase the period, you can see that what's happening here is much more obvious. It's just scrolling in time of how much time has passed. That sort of just gives a lot more movement and analog feeling to our visual, and I highly recommend you do it. And also, if you guys have any questions or want to leave feedback, please do. You can hit me up on any of my socials. I hope I'm not going too fast, but again, I've been well versed in this world for a while now, and I forget what people don't know, what people do know. So yeah, just let me know. So now we sort of want to combine these two operations. And then to do that, we're going to add in a composite over here on the left and drag both of these into this composite here. And then we'll replace the chop going to this background with this comp going to the background. You can already see it's starting to take, shape in what we're used to. I highly recommend just playing around with this composite operation. Multiply, overlay, I believe is what I was using in the video, but there's plenty of interesting operations that you can play with to get a really cool, unique effect. So yeah, just highly fucking recommend you go through all of that and have some fun. So this is pretty much it. Everything else from this point forward is optional design, subjective bullshit that you're welcome to follow along. But essentially what we're doing is just taking the audio input source, converting it to a spectrum, and then taking said spectrum and translating it into a visualization. And what we're going to do is sort of now add in some effects to make it a little bit more like how you see below, with some audio activity and pizzazz. But if you were just found all of this so far easy to follow along with, I highly recommend just from this point crafting your own one, or just diverting from whatever it is that I do at this point forward. But anyway, pressing on, I'm going to just drag this over here, and between this chop and comp I'm going to insert a crop. You can see on the spectrum here there's a lot of these lower frequencies and some of the higher frequencies that just aren't super necessary, or aren't super common in the song. And by cropping out some of the left hand side like that, and then cropping out some of the right hand side, it makes these middle frequencies, more common frequencies, much more identifiable and unique, which I feel like translates the sound a lot clearer to image. As cool as it would be to have a display super long that you could get every frequency up on display, the 16:9 ratio is usually what we're limited to, so it's just a good, way to try work to that medium. Cool, so another thing I did is if we go back to this chop2, you can see the data format is set to R, which is just taking the audio spectrum and outputting it as a singular color frequency. We have a few different options here, like red, green, all the way up to alpha and legacy. I found red-green is probably my favorite. I think that converts the stereo frequencies into color, so between red and green, which creates quite a nice yellow effect at points when they overlap. Legacy is also quite nice, but it's very similar to just red. So we're going to stick with the red-green option for now. And what is probably the nice one? We'll add in some more image effects. So I will just drag this all over like that. If we go to this open palette in the top left, we can see a bunch of pre-made collections of nodes. By that I mean if we go to image filters and drag and drop bloom, when we double click into it, you can see that this bloom is actually made up of a bunch of different nodes that have already been configured, and then we can just use this as its own node. So we're going to plug in this chop to the bloom here, and then plug that back into the crop, and then sort of play around with some of the parameters here. With bloom, I highly recommend setting the pixel format to 11-bit float. That will make each of these parameters behave in a lot more expected way. It's a little stupid, but it is what it is. And then just play around with these sliders. Personally, I like to set the glow color to a nice white, make the threshold maybe a little bit lower so it picks up a lot more of those dimmer colors. You could increase the frequency if you really want to go for something bright, intensity. You can decrease the blur and iterations if you want to make it a lot more precise as well. Increase the white glow if you like that, or you can increase the ramp, increase the bloom, play around with the gamma, whatever you like. I quite like that, and I'll just leave it as that for now. So another thing I did is I inserted a level operation here. So in this level, if you've used Photoshop or anything like that before, I'm sure you are familiar with these options. But we have typical stuff like contrast if we want to make those deeper colors a lot more stark. We can play around with the gamma, increasing that, getting some nice colors and shapes. You also have post-processing effects, opacity and brightness. Totally just worth playing around. I'm going to leave this level here. I'm going to actually, what I'll do is I will copy the level and bloom parameters I had from below because I quite like those, and drag this into it. And you can just pause the video here if you want to copy the parameters for this bloom, see them on the right, and the same with this level. I only changed this tab. Highly recommend doing that, and I'll get rid of that second level here. Another thing that I added in was this feedback edge, which is another one of the image filters here, and I left that mostly untouched actually. So I just plugged it in and then plugged it into the bloom. You can already see we're getting a bit, that, interestingly, it looks so much different because of the order of the operations here. If you're familiar with programming, it should just be pretty obvious why the order of these nodes matter so much. If you're not super familiar with why, don't worry, this stuff will sort of make sense after a while. So I'm just going to actually add this feedback edge after the level, and you can see the visualization effect is significantly different at that point. Again, this is all the base parameters. I haven't changed anything on the feedback there. And Now, at this point, I think we'll just play around with some audio reactivity. So it's already, reactive to the audio in terms of it being a direct spectrum visualization, but I want to make the controls a little bit more precise. So if I go ahead to my palette here and then go to my tools, audio analysis, drag and drop that. That's not an audio analysis. There we go. Then let's drag our audio file into that, and then a null to grab our values. We can then press this viewer active button to interact with the mids, highs, interact with the UI to enable these different frequency controls, and that's all of what we're interested for this tutorial. So you can see now we can access the low, mid and high, which are normalized values between 0 and 1. We then, what we might want to do is just select here, just the high, for example, make it a lot more obvious. You can do that by clicking this channel names here or just typing it in yourself. So we can take the normalized value of this high being measured in real time and apply that to a number of things. So in the tutorial, in the visual I have below, I have it set to this gamma because I quite like the look of this gamma when you get into the higher numbers here. So what we need to do is we need to click this viewer active button and drag and drop here, chop reference, and you can now see that the gamma value is exactly what the high value is as normalized between 0 and 1. But you can see it's not exactly the look that I wanted because I quite like the values from between say 1 and 3. So in order to access those, we'll need to go from the select here and connect it to a math operation. Under math we go to range and we can see it is set from 0 to 1, which is good because that's what our incoming value is. But we want to output it to a range of 1 to say 3. So now we can see that this normalized value is converted to a value between 1 and 3, which is a lot better for our gamma. And now if we drag that active viewer onto here and go chop reference, you can see you get a much nicer looking visualization, and this sort of like brighter gamma colors are only coming in with the higher frequencies of the song, which you can sort of see with the snare hitting there. And yeah, that's pretty much the tutorial. I can already see that it's not as short as I had hoped, so hopefully I'll get better at condensing these down and I can maybe like edit them in future. I'm not really sure what direction I want to take with making tutorials. My focus is obviously on my own work, but Touchdesigner is such a cool tool and I definitely want to make it as accessible to everyone as possible. So yeah, let me know if you want more tutorials. If there's anything particular, hit me up, ask me about things. Happy to always do one-on-one sessions or whatever it is. And otherwise, yeah, I hope to make some more shit in the future. If you want the project file, it's on my Patreon. Otherwise, have a great day.